Okay, this one will last longer, that one's not going to last very long. Okay. So, Tim and I wrote a chapter called The World is a Learning System.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what the line was, the race between learning and self-destruction. And then I was writing something for Annie Casey Foundation, and that applied some of these ideas. And then I was writing something in response to what some Obama people were doing, and that grew to about 40 pages. And I wanted it to be 40 pages, and then it just sort of kept going. I just kept adding things because I was editing it. Then I was going to present to Woodlands, and then it was up to 70 pages. And now it's...
Did you present it to Woodlands?
I presented a version of it, which I wasn't that satisfied with. But at least it was one beginning to talk out of my head about this. And then, and now it's 300 pages, the main text, plus it's written as hypertext. So the main text has all these hypertexts, so there's another 80 pages, plus a ton of New York Times articles and things like that. So it's meant to be ideally a communigraph when it's readable by other people. So it would be on a wiki, it would be in sections, people could go in there, they'd follow the links, they could comment on it even if they don't change it. The idea would be to have a group of people who want to do an initiative, 2 or 3 cities, 2 or 3 issues at 2 or 3 levels. So, but the purpose of this document partly is for me to clarify what I'm thinking so far and start to share sections with people to start to build the ideas. Okay, so what this is sort of inspired by your way of doing things at Chen, where you can sort of kind of create an architecture of ideas. Like the thing yesterday, the 4 boxes. And I was trying to find the dimensions that were there because I was figuring Etienne has engineered this, I know in some way. There's probably 16 different dimensions that are there to be uncovered. So here's where it starts. It starts actually before this. We live, thinking of the world as a learning system, we design the world. We design the world individual level, what we wear, what we eat, it affects who we end up becoming. And communities sort of exist as tribes in the state of innocence. Nowadays, we're becoming much more intentional about designing them, for what, with whom, all that. And then the world, think of the world as a learning system, more people living in cities than outside cities, and there's a very concrete sense. We're living in a civilized world, in a world that, by definition, is designed by people civilizing. And Peter's chart yesterday with the human imprint on nature, on that leaf, just sort of an example. We're beyond this tipping point, we're changing the climate. So we're doing world design, but like the Frankenstein syndrome, we're creating things that we don't have much control over, or we don't really understand what we've created, and all the different technologies, robotics, genetics, gene engineering, all these examples. So the purpose of this is first a headline. We are designing the world at all these different levels. We're designing in ways that we don't know the implications of what we're creating. And we're relatively incompetent in terms of design, in terms of understanding what our options are, engaging the diversity of people that are involved and affected by the outcomes, and creating action learning processes that would be associated with design. So let's see. Yeah, and then those are the first parts, sort of introducing the notion of what is design and who we are as designers. Thinking of intelligence design from the evangelical kind of Christian perspective and thinking, well, there is an intelligence designing the world, and now it's becoming more explicitly us. And so to what extent do we have collective intelligence to, et cetera. I talked about also a journey that at individual level from early age to older age we can become more explicit about our intentional about our personal development. That would be an example of becoming more intentional about design. Interrupt me, now I'm going to go to this chart, which is, so that's all introduction about what is design and who are we as designers, and then getting into what is the nature of the problems that we face. So there's 2 main categories. I say there's persistent problems. We have problems like poverty. In the United States, a highly developed nation, we have healthcare problems, healthcare costs that continue to rise despite technologies, despite all the information, despite public policies and all these things. We find new diseases to create. And so I call it a persistent problem. I'm thinking there's a graph where you can show how a problem mutates, subdivides like a virus, and it continues to persist no matter what interventions are thrown at it. and even to show how interventions exacerbate the problem, like traffic congestion. When they create new highways, more people figure they can travel for less cost and get there faster, so more people buy cars, they move farther away from the cities, and actually congestion gets worse. So as we're trying to solve things, we make them worse. Solve housing problems by building projects. The projects, remove the social capital, people start having violence, and the economy goes down, they can't afford housing, and we've got a worse housing problem than we had before. So we're constantly doing that. These are faulty design responsive. So persistent problems, and then hyper-persistent, because no matter what we seem to do, they seem to continue to get worse. And then hyper-potential problems, like genetic engineering, where we don't know what's going to happen. We can create viruses and bacteria that we have no response for, and et cetera. Geoengineering, the tipping point beyond which global climate we can't do anything about. So that's what I call hyper-potential. We've got this potential, this power. It's like, what's his name, the guy at in New Mexico when they set the atomic bomb off. I can't remember his name. Who was running the Manhattan Project, and he said, "We are death." Some Hindu Sanskrit saying is, we've created the capacity for destroying ourselves and destroying the world. Yeah, Oppenheimer. So underlying hyper-persistence and hyper-potential, now I move into here, are three underlying dimensions, and overarching, and then these dimensions are this is the structure of the document, so it goes from we are designer to the nature of the problems that we're facing. Oh, and the third thing is just possibility, hyper-possibility. Not only the possibility to create a better world today, but to create a platform for creating a better world beyond that. So it's not just having better outcomes in our cities today, it's having the capacity to become more. I mean, if we're really in eye blink in terms of human development, we have to be worried not only about what makes us happy today, but what will be the capacity, the platform for continuing to explore what's possible, right? I would be as worried about that as I would be. I'd rather die than not the next people have the opportunity not to explore what would be more possible, That way.